Hey there. So let's talk about conflict resolution. Okay. You may or may not have heard this before, or you probably have learned something about conflict resolution at your job, maybe, because they usually teach this in a lot of job settings, right? But maybe you have not ever thought about transferring those skills that you have learned, maybe at work, or have heard about this conflict resolution into your daily life and into your daily practice with others. Okay, so integrating it. Okay, what is conflict resolution? Well, I pulled it up like I always do. I pulled it up, so let's talk about it. What is conflict resolution? Okay, I'm just gonna read. Okay, it says conflict resolution skills are abilities that help individuals effectively navigate and resolve disagreements, encompasses active listening, empathy, not apathy, empathy, problem solving, and clear communication. Okay, so again, conflict resolution skills are abilities or tools in your life skills toolbox, right, that I'm always talking about, or your spiritual toolbox, okay, but tools in your toolbox to use, abilities that help individuals effectively navigate and resolve disagreements. It includes active listening, empathy, problem solving, and clear communication. Very clear communication. Okay, here's the breakdown of these skills, the core skills. I'm just going to read it, okay? It says active listening. Pay close attention to understand the other person's perspective and concerns, validating their feelings, and ensuring you've heard them correctly. Part of active listening is also repeating back what that person is saying to you. My mother taught me this many years ago, that part of conflict resolution is active listening, and part of that active listening is repeating back what the other person says. So for example, if somebody says, I hate it when you come home late. Okay, for example, something like that, right? And I say somebody, maybe it's your wife or somebody like that, okay? Or if she says, I hate it when you never call me. I know I've been guilty of saying that. Okay, so basically, part of active listening is instead of hauling up and getting defensive or putting up walls or running away or not dealing with the issue, or, just saying something like, I didn't want to call you, I didn't call you, I didn't want to, or whatever, like, and just hauling off some sort of reactive response, right? You could just simply repeat what they say. Okay, so you could say calmly, so I take it you don't like it when I don't call you. Or basically, you hate when I don't call you. Is that right? Or you hate when I'm late. Or whatever the issue is, okay? You repeat it back calmly, not condescending or anything like that, just calmly, just so that person knows that you have heard them effectively. That is part of active listening, is repeating back what they say or whatever as a way to kind of clarify, but it also cements in the other person's brain that you have heard them. Okay? Empathy. Try to understand the situation from the other person's point of view and acknowledge their emotions. If you have a hard time with empathy, or you cannot empathize with whoever you are talking to or dealing with, if you can't have empathy for them, you are likely a narcissist. Because narcissists have a very hard time empathizing, having empathy for people. Like, they have a hard time putting themselves in other people's shoes or trying to see other points of view. Okay? So you might want to check yourself before you wreck yourself if you are showing narcissistic signs, okay? I'm just saying. But anyway, most people can usually try to put themselves in the other person's shoes and empathize with them, right? Okay. Clear communication. Express your thoughts and needs in a calm, respectful, assertive manner using I statements instead of you. I feel attacked when you speak to me in that manner. Okay? I feel disrespected when you come at me like that. Okay? That's using I statements. Okay? I feel kind of not as important anymore. I feel upset over the situation. Okay? Those are all I statements. I, you know. Okay? It says problem solving. Work collaboratively. That means the two of you or whoever is in the conflict, work collaboratively, like together, working together to find solutions to address the needs of all parties involved. That, again, requires back and forth communication. Patience. Allow time for calm discussion and understanding, avoiding rushing to a solution. Assertiveness. Express your needs and opinions respectfully and firmly without being aggressive or passive. Or passively aggressive. Ugh. Okay? Strategies for conflict resolution. Focus on the issue, not the person. So again, okay, so it says address the problem at hand rather than attacking the other person's character or personality. So, you know, if, again, it's separating the behavior from the person. Okay? So, for example, if, let's just say it's your mate or your boyfriend, girlfriend, or whoever, right? And they are doing something that you don't like. They're behaving in a way that you just don't like it. You don't think it's good. Okay? So, for example, they are, let's say they need to quit smoking, okay? And you don't like that. And instead of attacking them and be like, you're so weak, you're this, I hate when you smoke, I don't like the way it, whatever, you're this, you're that, and, you know, whatever, like downgrading them or belittling them or something like that, right? Or this is embarrassing or something, I don't know, whatever. I don't know. But instead of saying things like that, you know, you would, you focus on the problem at hand, right? So it's that behavior. It's the problem or it's the behavior. And you can focus on the act. You know, smoking is not really good for you. And I see that you benefit and you do really well when you don't smoke as much. You know, I'm proud of you when you don't smoke as much or whatever, like but the behavior, right? Talking about the behavior. Smoking is not good for you. It can hurt your lungs or yada, 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 right? But not throwing it up like you are a bad person because you smoke or you are weak or you are this. No, it's the habit of smoking should be curtailed, or there's plenty of reasons why smoking is not good for you, or whatever you want to say, right? Something to that effect. But basically separating the person or personality from the behavior or from the problem, whatever the problem is. If it's late, if the person is late all the time or something like that, you know, it's talking about how work can't get effectively done when people are late, and, you know, work is not finishing on time or starting on time, or, you know, customer service drops whenever people are late, you know, like focusing on the problem, not the person. You're always late because you're on that, you know, CP time or whatever, right? Okay. Let's see. It says, stay calm and respectful. Maintain a calm and composed demeanor even when emotions are running high. This is very hard, especially for women and then for some hotheads, right? So my rule of thumb is basically when I feel my blood boiling. So I can usually start to feel, I feel hot. I feel flush. I feel when the blood is, I can just feel it. I can feel my pulses, like pulse, you know what I mean? And I feel hot, you know, I can just feel it, like, cause something is bothering me. So when I feel like that, that's my cue. And this is for myself. This is what I've done for myself, is that's my cue to step back, to step out for a minute. And I literally have learned to say, from a book, which I'm going to go into another video, but I'm from a particular book that says, basically, I don't want to be disrespectful to you in this moment. And I don't feel I can keep myself under control. So to maintain respect, I'm going to take my leave. I'll come back in a minute, or I'll be back. I'll definitely circle back to you. I need about 15 minutes, or whatever you feel you need. I'm going to call you tomorrow. I'm going to check in, or whatever. Okay. If you need to. Otherwise, try to at least stay calm in the moment. If you can stay calm and respectful, right? Seek common ground. So identify shared goals and interests to build a foundation or collaboration. So for example, let's say you are dealing with a baby mama or baby daddy or something, and he's getting on your last nerve or whatever, but you got a co-parent. That's another good example, right? And you know, you have to deal with each other. Try to stay on what's common ground, which is the children. And even when things get crazy or whatever, circle back around to, the goal is to effectively parent our children. The goal is to raise our children in a loving household. The goal is for our children to feel loved by both parents. So let's not argue. Or so let's not get at each other's throat. Or, you know, whatever. But always bringing back to what the common goal is between the two of you. Or the goal is for us to meet our deadlines. So I know you feel this type of way, or they feel that type of way, but we all want to effectively meet our deadlines and or raise our customer service scores, right? Okay, so in other words, finding the common ground that everybody shares in the conflict, whatever the conflict is, okay? And whoever is in the conflict. It says, find creative solutions. Explore different options and brainstorm innovative solutions that address the needs of all parties. Okay? Compromise. Be willing to give and take to reach a mutually agreeable outcome. So compromising. You know, if baby mama wants one thing and baby daddy wants another thing, and they're having a hard time reaching a compromise of some sort or whatever, try to find what the agreeable solution is. Like, both parties want full custody of the kids, and of course the judge systems usually work on that one. But anyway, maybe you could find common ground, or you could try to do it before then, or something like that, right? Which is like, okay, you know, I have them on the weekends and you have them for school, or I have them for school and you have them on the weekends, because the goal is for them to feel loved by both parents, right? Anyway, or common ground, no, whatever common ground that can be reached upon, like whatever that is. You know, I agree that smoking is not good for me. You agree you don't like it when I smoke either. I also don't like the effects that smoking is having on my body, and I agree with you on that. You know, like, find whatever it is you can agree upon, okay? Documentation. So keep a record of the conflict, discussions, and any agreements reached, especially in the workplace. Okay, follow up. Ensure that the agreed upon solution are implemented and that the conflict is resolved. Okay, so whatever that is, document it, or if you need to videotape it, whatever. Especially, you know, of course you got to let the other person know, but obviously if they're going to see you videotape or whatever. Okay, so now it says, what are the 5 conflict resolution techniques? Avoiding. Okay, it says the 5 common conflict resolution techniques, often based on the Thomas Kilmann conflict mode, include avoiding, accommodating, competing, compromising, and collaborating. Okay, and it says here's a more detailed explanation of each. Avoiding. This involves ignoring the conflict or postponing addressing it, often used when the issue seems minor or the potential for resolution is low. So basically, this is one thing. This is his techniques. This is 5 common conflict resolution techniques. One of them is just avoiding. That's not a good resolution if you're dealing in relationships, okay? And especially if you want to be with that other person, okay? Avoiding is not going to work. Being avoidant is not going to work, okay? But like, he's saying, he's kind of talking especially like in the workplace. So if you know that conflict is probably not going to be reached for whatever reason, there's not going to be common ground, or it's just not whatever, then it might be best to just avoid it in that case, especially in the workplace or something like that. It says accommodating. This approach prioritizes the other party's needs and concerns over your own, often used when maintaining relationships is crucial or when you recognize the other party's perspective. This could also be people pleasing. So depending on where you're at, right? You got to be very careful to make sure that you're not crossing your own boundaries, right? Okay, compromising. It says this involves finding a mutually acceptable solution where both parties make a concession, often used when time is limited or when a complete resolution isn't necessary. Collaborating. This approach aims to find a solution that satisfies everyone's needs and interests, requiring open communication and willingness to work together, often used when the issue is complex and a lasting solution is desired. So in other words, collaborating is asking, for everybody's input on what they think should be done or how they think this problem could be solved, right? Asking everybody, right? Okay, so that's collaboration. If you can do that, then, then that might be a good thing to do. That was that person's conflict resolution skills. Okay, what are the 5 steps to conflict resolution? Here is the conflict resolution process in 5 steps. Step 1, identify the source of the conflict. Identify the source of your conflict, okay? Step 2, look beyond the incident, okay? Step 3, request solutions. Step 4, identify solutions both disputants can support, both people can support. Step 5, agreement. So especially this would work really good for someone who's like a outsider who's trying to help 2 people or something like that. Okay. Let's see. So basically, assertiveness, active listening, problem solving, empathy, and effective communication. It's a lot of the same things now that is kind of going over. Trying to see if there's anything else. Remaining composed. Active listening. My mother always taught me to basically repeat the other person, right? And to try to remain agreeable, even if you don't agree. So even if you don't agree upon something, or something is, you don't feel the same way about something, or, you just don't agree, try to come across agreeable in whatever you're not agreeing in. Okay? And there is literally a book called How to Disagree Without Being Disagreeable. I remember reading it when I was young. Anyway, let's see. What is this one? Let's see. Okay, here's one. It says 3 tips for resolving conflict. Some ways to resolve conflict is talk directly, assuming that there is no threat of physical violence. Talk directly to the person with whom you have the problem. Choose a good time. Plan ahead. Don't blame or name call. Give information, listen, and show that you are listening, and talk it through. So basically, being calm, actively listening to the person by looking at them in the eye and listening, and then repeating what they say so that it is very clear that you understand what they're trying to convey to you, or whatever issue they feel they're having with you, right? Okay, by repeating it back, and then remain calm, okay, and try to suggest or at least express that you are going to try to find a resolution to the issue, or that you would like to find one, and you might have to get back to them or something like that. But a lot of times people just want to be heard. A lot of times people just want to actually know that you have heard them, but you don't have to promise anything. And so a lot of times you can say, okay, I hear what you're saying, and I can see your point of view, or I can see your side, or I hear what you're saying and I understand that. Let me think about this, or let me pray on this, and I'll get back to you with my answer. Okay? And just remaining calm, basically. But that's a part of conflict resolution skills, right? Those are all part of the skills. Okay, so let me see if there's anything else in here. Okay, this one is talking about, this one has some additional steps. Okay, 7 steps: acknowledging the problem, gathering information, clarifying the source, having a meeting, developing a plan, evaluating progress, and identifying takeaways. This is really good, especially for, in the workplace. Now, having a meeting. It says schedule a meeting to discuss the conflict in a calm and respectful environment. This is actually important. This is something else that my mother taught me. She said anytime you needed to confront somebody about something, or if you're having a conflict with somebody about something, it's best to not discuss the conflict on their home turf or even your home turf. In other words, like in sports, you'll hear about the home court advantage. Okay, it's the same thing. People tend to feel stronger, or they tend to feel more assertive or more prideful or whatever in their own home, because they feel comfortable in that environment. But when you tell somebody to meet me over at Starbucks, the library, or someplace, public or whatever, number one, you're in public, so both parties are going to be more likely to try to stay under control because of the fact that you don't want to go off crazy in public, right? Also, neither parties feel like they have an advantage, or they feel like stronger or anything like that because of being at their house or at their job or whatever, right? So that is also part, because especially in conflicts, or whenever you have to confront somebody about something, and that way you can go back and forth and you can feel a little bit more in a controlled setting. And depending on how bad the conflict is, and depending on what it is about, okay, I have even had to meet people at the police station. Okay, when I just knew that it was definitely going to be a pop-off situation, and I was pretty sure of that, but we needed to meet for a reason or whatever, I literally was like, meet me at the police station. And I literally had cops standing there, basically just standing there ready to go, because that's what they do. They will help. If you're having a serious issue, you absolutely can use the police station in that way. You can absolutely go meet there. They can just watch. They don't have to say anything. They don't have to mediate, but they can literally just stand as a just to ensure that nobody pops off crazy and tries to hit somebody, or pull out guns, or whatever the case is. Okay, get crazy. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously the cops are there, and people usually tend to be under control because nobody wants to be hauled off to jail, right? Okay, so anyway, that is definitely one place where you can be somewhere, like you can meet somewhere and make sure that you are, well, they call that, in general though, if you meet in a public place, they call that meeting on common ground, like just meeting up on common ground, okay? Okay, so anyway, so that was there. So let's see. Coping skills. The ability to successfully resolve conflict depends on your ability to manage your stress quickly while remaining alert and calm. That means you don't manage your stress by just smoking or trying to drink your problems away. You're not staying alert and calm if you do that. You're just basically avoiding the whole situation. That's not conflict resolution skills at all. Controlling your emotions and behavior. Pay attention to your feelings being expressed as well as the spoken words of the other. Be aware of and respect differences. Also, I know for me, one thing in particular that I do, that I always notice is, how do I feel, right? Especially in relationships. I would say especially in relationships. If I'm having a conflict with somebody, or I'm having to confront or talk about something, right? I'm seeing how is this person making me feel in my gut? Do I feel uptight and nervous? Do I feel like they're making me sick? In other words, am I feeling attacked or whatever, right? And I take note of those things, because if that's how I'm feeling, then I know that's, for me, I have learned that for me, long term, I'm not going to be able to maintain a relationship with somebody like that who makes me feel this type of way inside of my stomach. because it's going to give me stress. Basically, that is pulling stress. Okay, that is literally stressing me and my body, and I am no longer entertaining stressful situations, or people who are going to attack me and anything, or just dealing with drama and stuff like that. Like, too old for that. Done. Been there, done that. Done. Been done. Right? But I definitely draw the line there, and I am not dealing with toxic stuff. Right? But if I can't, peacefully find a resolution with whoever it is that I'm dealing with, or whoever is causing the problem, or whatever issue I'm having, if I feel like they're that type of a person, right, then yeah, the only thing you can do is just avoid them altogether. Okay. And then that's all you can do. But in general, with relationships, or just with the, maybe at work or with friends or whatever, it's good to kind of employ some of these tactics, like meeting on common ground, and like active listening, and also taking note how you feel on the inside, right? Because that is also very, very important, because you might also be trying to decide if you even want to keep that person in your life based on how they are talking to you and how they are making you feel, in that moment when you're addressing a concern. Because if you tell somebody a concern of yours, if you're like, I don't think that, I don't think we're gonna be, I don't think I want to, maybe we're in a relationship, boyfriend and girlfriend or something, and I no longer want to be with you because I have, told you how it makes me feel over and over and over again when you don't do this, or you don't do that, or this is happening, or whatever, or I'm being made to feel like this constantly, like this and this and this and this, right? Okay. And as you're going through that, if the conversation turns toxic, or you start feeling that icky feeling in your stomach, that gut feeling or whatever, for me, like, I start getting like, this has to end, because there's some toxic stuff happening, or it's just something that I just don't want it. I just don't want to entertain that in my life. Like, for me, that's kind of like just where I'm at now. Like, I just don't have room. I don't have any more room, space, mental ability to deal with toxic people or games or anything like that. Okay. Anyway, I hope that some of these tips help. I hope it helps to hear it broken down, and I hope you're able to utilize some of these. The video's been way too long. Bye.